Good morning, scholars. Today is Tuesday, April the 7th, 2020. Today's lesson is Unit 6, Lesson 4A. We have a few announcements and updates to make. Be sure to log into your Google and Math classroom by 9:45 a.m. to see if you've been invited back to our Reteach block. Literature Reteach block starts at 10 a.m. and Math Reteach block starts at 10:45 a.m. Scholars, be sure to go in and check your score from your previous day and see any feedback. All lessons will be uploaded daily at 12 p.m. Also, if you have any questions about the material that you've learned for today, please visit us in our office hours. Literature office hours is at 2:15 and math office hours is at 3:15. All assignments should be completed and uploaded by 10 p.m. daily. Be sure to mark as done. There are a few tips I would like to give you for success in virtual learning. 1, be sure to watch the videos. 2, make sure that you complete the task with success in mind. 3, complete every component in the task and in the videos. That includes creating your charts and make sure that you write your notes. 4, use evidence to support your claim whenever you're answering your independent practice and your exit tickets. And 5, visit our office hours if you have any questions about the content that you've learned for the day. I'm going to call those 5 steps over again. 1, watch the videos. 2, complete the task with success in mind. 3, complete every component of the task. If it asks for an ACE paragraph, be sure to write an ACE paragraph. Also, be sure to take notes and make sure that you're creating the charts and T-charts during your lessons. 4, make sure you use evidence to support your claim whenever you're answering your independent practice and your exit tickets. And 5, if you have questions, visit us during office hour times. So we talked about our new challenge. The challenge is still on. All scholars should complete 30 minutes per day on Lexia. Again, you should complete 30 minutes per day on Lexia. You should have that completed by 10 p.m. each day. The ACE paragraphs is still challenging for us. Let's remember, when writing an ACE paragraph, you should have an argument or claim, context, 2 pieces of evidence, and an analysis. Be sure to use a hired word in your analysis and tell why, because, by. Again, your ACE paragraph should have an argument or a claim, context, 2 pieces of evidence, and analysis using a hired word. We have some exit ticket shoutouts. Let's give a drum roll. Miss Anna Lee, Emmanuel, Amila, Dillery, and Andrew. Andrew has a special shout out from Ms. Richardson because he rocked it out and showed so much grit and determination during the Reteach block. Let's give them a, ooh, you did that. Good job, guys. Keep up the great work. So let's do a recap. 1, make sure that you check your Google Classrooms every morning by 9:45 a.m. to see if you need to come back for our Reteach block. Reteach starts at 10 o'clock for literature, 10:45 for math. All lessons are uploaded daily by 12 p.m. If you have any questions during any questions about the lesson, come during our office hours. Office hours for literature is at 2:15. Office hours for math is at 3:15. Be sure to complete all of your lessons, including your Lexia, by 10 p.m. daily. After you complete your lessons, be sure to mark as done. If you completed some lessons, but you forgot to mark them as done, go back to those previous lessons and mark them as done. This is the end of your updates and announcements. So scholars, let's go ahead and dive deep into lesson 4A. The materials that you're going to need for your lesson today is chapter 4, pages 25 through 27. Sheet of paper, a pen or a pencil, and a distraction-free location. Scholars, by now you should have completed your dirt quiz and the reading for today. Again, you should have read chapter 4, pages 25 through 27 and completed your dirt quiz. If you have not completed those two items, I want you to pause the video now, go complete those items, and then join us back. All right, so now that you have completed those items, we are all ready to dive into today's lesson. Remember, if you have any questions, make sure you write them on your notes and then visit us in our office hours starting at 2:15. Also, keep in mind, we're one big learning family. We're all here to support, grow as learners, and make this virtual experience the best experience ever. We have some vocabulary terms that's going to help you understand the reading for today. The first vocabulary term is ruthless. What word? Ruthless is an adjective, means having or showing no pity or compassion for others. Our next word is ambush. What word? Ambush is a noun. It means a surprise attack by people lying and waiting in a concealed position. The word is ambush. The next word is confrontation. What word? Confrontation is a noun. It means a hostile or argumentative meeting or situation between opposing parties. The word is confrontation. What word? Our next word is stable. What word? Stable is an adjective. It means of an object or structure not likely to give way or overturn. It's firmly fixed. That word is stable. What word? Let's go over the words one more time. The words are ruthless. What word? Ambush. What word? Confrontation. What word? Stable. What word? Scholars, I am going to give you a personal challenge for today. As you complete your independent practice, be sure to use one of these 4 words in your response. Again, personal challenge. Be sure to use one of these 4 words in your response today. So our focus question for the next 2 days is contrast the ways Cleopatra and Caesar established their power. At this time, I want you to go ahead and take out your clean sheet of notebook paper or scrap paper. You're going to write today's date, April the 7th, 2020. Today's lesson is Unit 6, Lesson 4A. Then I want you to go ahead and write our focus question for the next 2 days. The question again is, contrast the ways Cleopatra and Caesar established their power. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to get your notes situated. Again, remember to write the focus question for today. Ten more seconds. All right, scholars, we're moving. So we need to go in and attack the prompt. And as you can see, I have already attacked the prompt. There are keywords that are sticking out to me. One, I know that I need to make a contrast. That means I'm telling the difference of something. I need to have different ways between Cleopatra and Caesar, and we're talking about how they established power. At this time, go ahead and mark your prompt. You can look at my prompt on the screen, but make sure that you have marked and illustrated the keywords that sticks out in our prompt for today. So now that we've done that, there are a few steps that we need to take. Let's go ahead and write down the steps that we're going to take to make sure that we're able to successfully answer this prompt. The prompt again is contrast the ways that Cleopatra and Caesar established their power. The first thing I need to do is explain how Caesar established power. 2, explain how Cleopatra established power. And 3, explain the key differences. That comes in with the contrast. Again, 3 is explain the key differences. I want you to make sure that you write down all 3 steps that you're going to take. As we complete each step, we're going to put a check mark beside it. So 1, explain how Caesar established power. 2, explain how Cleopatra established power. And 3, explain the key differences. I'm going to give you a few seconds to make sure you've written down all 3 steps and underline or circled, identify those keywords that stood out in our prompt. All right, and in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So we need to give a little context. And context is simply putting together what we know so far and understanding and establishing what we need to know by the end of this lesson. So I'm going to read to you the context that's provided. We've learned more about Caesar's first impressions of Ptolemy and Cleopatra. On yesterday, we saw Ptolemy's greeting was unwelcoming as he served Caesar spoiled grains on chipped pottery. On the other hand, we saw that Cleopatra was very enchanting and captivating during her first interaction. Did you guys see how I use those vocabulary terms? That's what I want you to start doing in your independent practice. Her actions causes Caesar to fall in love at first sight. Our focus today is to identify ways that Caesar established his power. Again, our focus today is to identify ways that Caesar established his power. We're moving. So our annotation and discussion prompt is, how did Caesar establish his power? Go ahead and write our discussion prompt on your paper. It's a pretty short prompt. How did Caesar establish his power? Now that you have that written down, these are the things that we're going to do as we read through our text. 1, we're going to underline details that show how Caesar established his power, and then we're going to explain it. That's our evidence. Caesar is powerful because. So again, we're underlining the details to show how he established the power, and then we're going to explain it. Caesar is powerful because. So underline the details, that's our evidence, Explain how Caesar is powerful. Those are our claims. And you guessed it, it is T-chart time. On your notes, I want you to go ahead and create a T-chart. And scholars, I realize I have not shown you in a while how to create a T-chart, and I definitely want you to be successful. So I'm going to create a very quick T-chart so that you are very clear on how your T-chart should look. I am starting my T-chart off. It looks like a big T. I am only going to have 4 boxes today. Again, I'm starting my T-chart off. I am only going to have 4 boxes today. In my boxes, I need to write how Caesar established power. So I am writing, you are writing. How Caesar, this is the box to your left. And the box to your right is labeled evidence. We're going to label the boxes on our left Caesar powerful because. And then as we read, we're going to complete that statement. So right now, you should have a T-chart that resembles the chart on your screen. A few more seconds to write down this chart. Now, as we discussed during our lesson, we're going back in and completing the components of our chart. Again, as we discuss our lesson, we're going back in and completing the components of our chart. All right, so now that we have our chart completed, it is time to dive into our text. At this time, I want you to go ahead, get your books out. We are on page 25, and we're going to read all of page 25. Again, we're at page 25. We're reading the entire page of 25. In our minds, we are thinking about how does Caesar establish power. We're thinking and looking for ways that Caesar is powerful. Again, we're in our text. We are on page 25, and we're going to read the entire page of 25. You will have 2 minutes. Again, you're just reading and annotating. You are not completing your chart. You are just going in, reading and annotating for ways that Caesar is powerful. You have 2 minutes. And your 2 minutes has started. You're just reading. Imaginary Mr. Trotter. 40 seconds. All right, and that is time. Now, scholars, you've had time to go in and read. I'm going to share with you one piece of evidence that I found that helps me understand ways that Caesar was able to establish power. Come with me to the very bottom of page 25, and you can see that I have annotated. I am using Caesar's troops may have been vastly outnumbered, but Caesar fought back, using the daring and ruthless moves that made him famous. Ding, 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 ding. Vocabulary word. Again, Caesar troops may have been vastly outnumbered, but Caesar fought back, using the daring and ruthless moves that made him famous. I am going to go back to my T-chart, and I noticed that I've already written evidence. So that means, you guessed it, in your T-chart on your notes, you should go ahead and write down this very first piece of evidence. Again, on your T-chart, in your notes, you are going to write down this very first piece of evidence. Mm-hmm. And I'm giving you 30 seconds to make sure that on your T-chart, you have this piece of evidence down. All right. So now, scholars, I now want you to think. What words does the author use to characterize Caesar's tactics? What are some examples that the author gives to show how Caesar responded to the Alexandrians' efforts? And what did Caesar do to Pothinus, and why? What does this reveal about Caesar? I think it's Pothinus. What did Caesar do to Pothinus? Why? And what does this reveal about Caesar? All right, we're thinking. Think of those questions in your head. 30-second think time. You're not writing anything down. You are just thinking about those questions. All right. Now I want you to take 1 minute. You're going to go back into your text. Nope, I can't show you my book because I have, well, I can do this. You're going back in your text and you're looking for one more piece of evidence that will support your claim that you can put in your evidence column. Again, you're looking for one more piece of evidence that will support your claim that you can write down in your notes under your evidence. You have 1 minute. You're looking for one more piece of evidence. So you should be back in your text looking for evidence. Again, we're only on page 25. Now you have your second piece of evidence. I want you to take 1 minute. You're going to make your response Caesar powerful because you're going to write your response on your T-chart. Again, you have 1 minute. You're writing your response on your T-chart. While you're writing your response on your T-chart, I am going to write my response on my T-chart. Again, you have 1 minute. You're in your Caesar powerful because column, and you're writing your response. You have 1 minute. Thirty seconds. All right, finished up. All right. So scholars, on your T-chart, you should have completed. I have 2 pieces of evidence and I have my because statement. I wrote Caesar's powerful because he was ruthless and did whatever it took to win. Give you a few seconds in case you need to revise your notes. That's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We're moving. So scholars, we are now turning our page. We're still looking for ways that Caesar is powerful. I want us to read all of page 26, and we're stopping at the very first paragraph on page 27. Again, we're reading all of page 26, and we're stopping right before you get to giving Egypt back to the Ptolemies. Again, all of page 26, reading to until we get to giving Egypt back to Ptolemies. You will have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to read. Make sure that you identify by annotating in your text ways that or things that Caesar did to make or create power. You have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Your time has started. One minute, 12 seconds. All right, we have 20 seconds. Make it count. Well, hello, scholars. I hope you like my Duke hair. So we have just finished reading, and now we need to find a piece of evidence that will show us how Caesar established himself or was able to create some type of power. And if you were a little sneak like my buddy Edwin, you would have already noticed that I identified my piece of evidence as Caesar advised Ptolemy to be faithful to the Romans and to consider the welfare of the Egyptian people. So this is one piece of evidence that I am going to use to show the different ways that Caesar established his power. Yes, you guessed it. That is right. Go to your T-chart. Under evidence, we're going to write my first piece of evidence here. Again, in your T-chart, under evidence, we're writing my very first piece of evidence. I am going to put it on the screen so you guys can see. Caesar advised Ptolemy to be faithful to the Romans and consider the welfare of the Egyptian people. I'm giving us 1 minute to get this piece of evidence written down on our notes. Let's go. And I know some may be wondering, do we have to write the entire thing down? You do not have to write the entire piece of evidence, but you need a good chunk of the evidence so you know exactly where to go back in your reading so that you're able to use that evidence in your exit ticket or during your independent practice. $10, 10 seconds. All right, that is our time. I now want you to go into the text, find your second piece of evidence. Again, I want you to go into your text and find the second piece of evidence and write it in your notes. Again, you're going through the text between pages 26 and 27 and finding your second piece of evidence, and you're writing it on your T-chart under evidence. You have 1 minute. Go. $15 seconds. All right. So now you should have 2 pieces of evidence on your T-chart. My second piece of evidence talked about when the Alexandrians bowed before Caesar and they begged for mercy, and Caesar did not hesitate to grant. I found that piece of evidence on page 27. Now, let's think about questions we should consider when we're answering the question, how did Caesar establish power? I want you to consider the following questions. What did Caesar try to convince Ptolemy to do? Why was he successful? And what did Caesar do to the Alexandrians once he was victorious? And why? Again, what did Caesar try to convince Ptolemy to do? Was he successful? What did Caesar do to the Alexandrians once he was victorious? And victorious means victory, like once he won. And why? 30 seconds. Consider those questions. You have 30 seconds to start it now. right. Come on, guys. Push, push, push. We are almost done. Now, look at your T chart. What's missing? We need our because statement. Go over to the last box. Caesar's powerful because. Let's complete our because statement. Before we do that, think about, what did Caesar try to convince Ptolemy to do? Was he successful? What did Caesar do when the Alexandrians to the Alexandrians once he was victorious, and why? Thinking about it? All right, let's write. You're writing, I'm writing. We are completing our T chart. We have 1 minute. Let's go. Forty seconds. $20. All right. So, scholars, I was able to complete my chart, and I wrote Caesar powerful because he tries to do what is in the best interest of his people. So look here, I have a completed T chart. I've answered both because statements. You should have both because statements answered. And I have 4 pieces of evidence. Again, on my T chart, I have answered how Caesar established power, 2 points, 2 claims, and I have 4 pieces of evidence, 2 pieces per claim. I'm going to share my screen for just a second in case you need to revise or add to your T chart. Taking 10 more seconds. All right. So, scholars, we have finished our T chart, and some of you may be saying, okay, but Miss Trotter, how do I make this, how do I use this T chart to answer the question? Simple. Let's look at our annotation prompt for today. So here's how I answered the discussion prompt. How did Caesar establish his power? Caesar was a powerful ruler because he conquered and ensured the safety of his people. Caesar is characterized as a leader who was willing to be ruthless in battle, but who also tried to be fair. The author writes that Caesar fought back, using the daring and ruthless moves that made him famous, and was willing to execute his enemies to prove his point. However, he also tried to convince Ptolemy to end the fighting. Caesar advised Ptolemy to be faithful to the Romans and to consider the welfare of the Egyptian people. Here, he tried to save people that he was trying to conquer. This highlights that Caesar established his power by doing whatever it took to win, while doing what was in the best interest of his people. Again, all of that information came directly from my T chart. I'm going to share this just for a while so you can see a response to the discussion prompt. So now that we have viewed an exemplar response, it is time for us to do our lesson recap. So for our lesson recap, Your notes today should answer the following question. How did Caesar establish his power? On your chart, you should have listed 2 ways that Caesar established his power with 2 pieces of evidence for each way. Again, on your chart, you should have 2 ways that Caesar established his power with 2 pieces of evidence for each way. Scholars, I enjoy teaching this lesson with you. I hope you are so ready to rock your independent practice for today. Remember, use your notes. They are going to help you be successful in today's independent practice. Also, remember, you should complete at least 30 minutes of Lexia by 10 p.m. All material, all assignments should be completed by 10 p.m. today, and be sure to mark as done. Have a great and terrific Tuesday.